Hello and welcome to the program UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about the FBI document dump. That's correct, the FBI document dump. Now, they've rounded up all these files, and we've got the first bunch that's been dropped that President Trump has ordered to be dropped. Interesting stuff. I went over there to UFO.gov and got started on this. There's quite a bit there. I haven't come across anything earth-shattering yet, but there's so many pages, and there's a lot of cool stuff. I just kind of started from the top here, and the very first file, it's 184 pages, and it ranges from elderly people sending in letters to J. Edgar Hoover thinking that UFO clubs were communist, to I've gotten into these collection of newspaper articles now. These are the funnest, I think, when you go back into the 50s, 60s, 70s, and you read these firsthand accounts of people actually seeing these UFOs. Now, they've got a few of them listed here. I just want to take a look at them. This first one, the title, the headline says, "Tracked by Radar. UFO sighted over wide section of district," and this looks like it's from London, Ontario, it's Canada. It's dated March 29th, 1966. It says, "Unidentified flying object tracked briefly on radar by U.S. Air Force Base in Michigan last night, and a multitude of new sightings were reported by Western Ontario residents. A retired U.S. Marine Corps major said yesterday there is substantial evidence that they are observation devices controlled by a superior civilization. Sightings of the objects were reported last night over an area stretching from Serena to Kehoe, northwest of Woodstock. The mysterious objects came in a variety of forms, according to their observers." So it sounds like we have a mass sighting going on there, people seeing a lot of different types of UFOs. There was an orange one at Sarnia and another giving off red, white, and blue flashes. There was a red one in London that had a pulsating white halo. The one at Kehoe was a bright white light that intermittently faded to dull red. Some of them were hightailing it through the skies like mad, and some of them were sitting stock still in midair. Some were poking along, and some were traveling slowly with intermittent bursts of speed. A spokesman at the U.S. Air Force Base in Selfridge, Michigan, said one was tracked briefly on radar, but could not say what it was. Some observers said their sightings lasted for about 7 minutes. Others reported the object in sight for up to 2 hours. The Free Press sent 5 men out Martian hunting, 2 of them in a chartered plane, but found only 2 high-flying jet planes carrying the usual red and green running lights and leaving white vapor trails. Major Donald E. Kehoe, the Marine officer who advanced the outer space in the sky theory on behalf of the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, called on the U.S. government yesterday to release all the information it has on UFO sightings. "There is substantial evidence we are being observed by some sort of device which is far more advanced than anything we have and is controlled by a superior civilization," he told a press conference. Now, you kind of get the idea here of how folks in the know viewed these things 50, 60 years ago. They were looking at these things as physical objects controlled by physical entities from a civilization somewhere off into deep space. They weren't looking at these things so much as being interdimensional or spiritual or anything like that. "These things are real and under intelligent control," he added. He urged the Air Force to end the secrecy on sightings and stop ridiculing the competent witnesses who have seen them. Kehoe, who has written several books on the subject of UFOs, is director of the Investigations Committee. The majority of the Western Ontario sightings came from London and Sarnia. Mrs. J. Fielding of 1025 Oxford Street, East London, reported seeing a white light in the northeast sky headed toward Stratford on 7:25 p.m. Of course, we're still talking about London, Canada here. A Thorndale area man, Floyd Baxter, at 7:40 reported seeing an orange and yellow light moving very slowly to the northeast. He estimated it to be more than 1,000 feet high. 15 minutes later, at Kehoe, 6 miles northeast, Thorndale, a mother and her 2 children, saw a white light quite high in the sky that seemed to be blinking. Mrs. J. H. Haynes of Kehoe said there was no sound, and we watched it for 10 minutes anyway. It would brighten up, then it would dim down. It was moving ever so slowly, she added. Now, this sounds an awful lot like one of these orb sightings that we see today. It was moving ever so slowly, she added. Her daughter, Wendy, 15-year-old Ingersoll District Colgate Institute student, also said she saw a clear white light which kept dimming and getting brighter. Larry, her 13-year-old brother, saw the same object, but he insisted that when it became dim, quote, I could see a red color coming from it. In London, James T. Deas of 572 Hutton Road came home from a Cub meeting with 3 young boys at 8:20. He sighted an object moving southward in the sky. I saw it first at 8:20, traveling at an enormous rate of speed, almost directly south. Then it swooped back up northward, and it never moved for an hour. Mr. Deas said it was a mass of red and blue lights flashing off and on. It was no plane. There wasn't any sound. A neighbor, Harold J. Kennedy of 550 Kingsway Drive, said he saw it around 9 p.m., and it was setting low in the northern sky. By 10 p.m., the object was higher and further to the south in a stationary position. Yeah, these people are just seeing these things all over the place. And just notice it's what I would call a mass sighting, really multiple people, but they're all seeing different expressions of these UFOs. Now, here's one from the Sun Bulletin. It says, Birmingham, New York, March 17th, 1966. This is out of these FBI files. Not Star, says collector of flying saucer photos. The director of Unit 40 of the Amalgamated Flying Saucer Club of America is not convinced that the object sighted in the skies over Fort Dickinson Tuesday night was the star Arcturus. I know enough about astronomy to know that a star does not behave in that manner, Gerald M. Reynolds of 684 State Street said last night. Mr. Reynolds said he talked with persons who witnessed a strange object flashing multicolored lights around 8:30 p.m. Tuesday. He hopes to talk with others who saw the object. Mr. Reynolds, a construction foreman, is 60 years old. He has a large file of photographs of flying saucers and other material relating to spaceflight. He admits that not all sightings are mysterious and told of the time 2 persons called him to tell him about strange lights seen over Binghamton. One turned out to be the planet Jupiter, and the other came from a house or a car on Elk Park Hill, he laughed. Yeah, well, not all sightings, I guess, are the actual thing, but it's kind of cool this guy's still out there doing that. And this is back in 1966. I'm sure he's long since gone. Swamp gas still flying. This is from the Telegram, Toronto, Saturday, March 28th, 1966. Detroit. The U.S. Air Force closed its books today on the case of 2 visits, quote-unquote, by unidentified flying objects. It's verified swamp gas. Well, there you go. Well, if it's verified swamp gas, then I'm sure they could go out and reproduce it, right? But some of the people who witnessed what they thought was a landing by a glowing extraterrestrial spacecraft were not completely convinced the experts were right. And even while the 2 most spectacular Michigan sightings now wore the tag of an official explanation, UFO sightings continue to pop up across the country in rural areas and cities alike. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the top Air Force advisor on UFO sightings, climaxed 3 days of the on-scene investigation by telling a news conference it appeared very likely swamp gas was responsible for mass reports of strange glowing objects this week at Hillsdale and Dexter in southern Michigan. Now, we've covered this case on the podcast before. I should probably do it again. But one of the men that reported seeing this, they just pretty much tried to destroy his life. It was a very sad case. William Van Horn, Little Hillsdale Civil Defense Director, said he was dissatisfied with the explanation, because Hynek's investigation of the sighting was too brief, and because Hynek sidestepped mention of the report from two college co-eds who said they saw the UFO close up as it swept past their window. Now, here's the thing. You had a working class guy who had reported this, and you had, I think, this maintenance guy, and they just destroyed them, especially this guy who was, I think he was a rural guy, had a large family, saw this thing out in the country, and the media just trampled his reputation. He said he was so disgusted by the whole process, he said he wished he hadn't even talked about it. And Hynek was part of that. I think he acted just terribly, in my opinion. But you had Hillsdale College, where a lot of these wealthy girls went to school at, and they were connected. They had parents that were wealthy and had social status, and nobody touched them. They didn't have their reputations destroyed for talking about it. This case was, to me, a black mark on Alan Hynek's record and reputation, in my opinion. I know later on he went on to say, well, UFOs are real and this and that, but boy, he left some real damage in his wake. Other UFO sightings, meanwhile, were reported from a drive-in restaurant in Des Moines, from some police officers in St. Louis, from a truck driver on a Michigan interstate highway, from sheriff's deputies in Toledo, Ohio, from a farmer in Upper Sandusky, Ohio, from a housewife at Macomb, Mississippi, a newsman at Toma, Wisconsin, and a man at Bangor, Maine, who took a pot shot at his object. Yeah, nothing like shooting at these things, huh? Yeah, that was the one in Michigan. There's 66. This next article says MONT-**41966, photograph flying saucer, picture censored, Associated Press, dateline Ravenna, Ohio, April 19th. We were closer than I ever want to be again, said a deputy sheriff who chased an unidentified flying object from Ohio into Pennsylvania. Hundreds of persons in both states reported seeing the brilliant and shiny object early Sunday morning. Police Chief Gerald Burchard of Mantua, about 8 miles north of Ravenna, said he took a picture of the object from his front yard, but the Air Force told him not to release it. Burchard said it looked like two table saucers put together. Well, that's interesting. Makes you wonder whatever happened to that picture, huh? This says 16's tell of chase by buzzing lighted UFOs. 6 picnicking Denver teenagers reported Thursday night they were chased for an hour by unidentified flying objects in Daniels Park, south of Denver and Douglas County. It's written by Robert Kistler, Denver Post staff writer. I think that's a pretty good-sized paper. The high school students, 3 boys, 3 girls, told Police Chief John C. McLever of Littleton they witnessed unexplained, apparently hovering, red, blue, and white lights accompanied by a series of pulsating, buzzing sounds, which began around 9:30 p.m. The teenagers, all 17, who described what they saw hesitantly, were described by McIver as being sincere, cold, sober, and a little shaken by what they saw. The group appeared at McIver's office shortly before 11 p.m. I was real skeptical at first, McIver said, but each of the kids called their parents, who knew they'd been picnicking, to tell them where they were. I don't know what they saw, he said, but I'm convinced they saw something. Alan Scrivener, son of Mr. and Mrs. Russell Scrivener of 1040 Jackson Street, a junior at East High School, gave the following account. Scrivener and 5 friends drove to Daniels Park, 10 to 12 miles southeast of Littleton, about 6:30 p.m. They parked the car and walked about a city block down a small incline and up against a stone shelter built into the side of a hill. The group was sitting around a fire they built inside when they heard what sounded like a man walking on top of the shelter. The roof can easily be reached on foot from the slanting hillside. Scrivener and Don Otis, an East High School junior, son of Mr. and Mrs. Elmore Otis, 1939 Fairfax Street, stood on top of the shelter and shined a flashlight into the surrounding area. They saw nothing. The 2, leaving the others behind in the shelter, made their way through the underbrush back to the road. I thought someone was messing around my car, Scrivener said. Just as we got to the car, he said, both of us heard a real weird buzzing noise. It seemed to be all around us. As they reached the car, the youths saw 2 red lights about a foot each in diameter, about 2 feet off the ground and parallel to each other. There was a white light in the center of the road. The lights, about 30 feet apart, appeared to be in a field on the far side of the road, about 25 yards from the car. The two, thinking it might be two parked cars or something, crouched in the ditch and waited. About 3 minutes later, they again approached the car. They saw and heard nothing. They returned to the shelter. The four in the shelter said that while the two had been gone, they heard the same footstep-like sounds on the roof again. Two of the girls said they'd also seen a tall man who might have been wearing a raincoat dart through the light, showing through the window into the area. They also said they heard his footsteps. The group decided to leave. As they were walking back to the car, Otis turned and saw a real bright flash behind the hill over the shelter, and it lit up the whole area. Wow, things are getting a little strange here. Buzzing all around. The ominous buzzing sounds began again. No direction, just all around. Never heard anything like it in my life, Scrivener said. Shortly afterward, as the group neared the car, they all agreed they saw the same thing. Two blue lights hovering low in the sky and 3/4 of a mile away. The lights were stationary and went from bright to dim. A third, white light appeared to rise up and down between the blues and lit up the area. No outline other than the lights was visible. They perched atop the car's hood and watched the blue and white lights off and on for about a half hour. The lights appeared in back of the shelter in the opposite direction from the first lights seen in the field. 20 minutes after the blues appeared, another set. These, blues with bright red in the center, appeared off to the left of the others and a block away. These hovered near the ground. The buzzing continued. The night was overcast with no stars, but real clear beneath the clouds where the lights were. As the third set of lights hovered, the youths agreed they could see a dark outline between the lights. It looked like a black football, the blue lights on each end with an orange on top, like a bubble. The red light was at the bottom. It didn't move up and down, but it did cast a beam of light at the ground, Scrivener said. Now, it says car didn't work right. The youngsters piled in the car, a 1954 Ford, and started out of the park. You'll all think we're nuts, Scrivener said later, but my car didn't work right. I could get it up to about 30 miles an hour. Then it would cut out like someone turned the ignition off. Then it would start up again. Scrivener also complained that the radio was playing nothing but static while they left the immediate area of the shelter. As they drove off, two of the girls and Otis saw what appeared to be a large oval circle of lights. It covered the whole road, following the car. Mary Zolar, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Jack A. Zolar, 945 Fairfax Street, a senior at East, was in the back seat with two others. It was huge and glowing, she said, and came right up to the back of the car. Then it went out. It lasted about 3 seconds. As the car left the park area, it quit missing out, and the radio played normally, Scrivener said. The youths stopped at a service station and called the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, then went to MacGyver's office. MacGyver said one of the impressive things about their story was all six didn't claim to have seen the exact same thing at the same time, and a couple of them are real shook up, he added. The operations officer at Lowry Air Force Base said early Friday he'd received a call apparently from the Arapahoe County Sheriff reporting the sightings. Others in the group were Michael Symington, son of Mr. and Mrs. James E. Symington, 773 Jackson, a junior at East; Patty Rutherford, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Neil Rutherford, 742 Harrison Street, a junior at Mapleton High School; and Kay Hurley, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lloyd Hurley, 5736 Montview Boulevard, a junior at Macaboose High School. Two other UFO sightings were reported in the state, one in Delta and the other in Denver. Delta Police Chief D.C. Morgan, Patrolman Ernest Markley, and reporter Dan Prather of Delta Independent watched an object which was glowing green in color and very bright. The men observed it for almost 2 hours before it disappeared by rising straight up. In Denver, Terry Datz 19, a University of Denver student, said he and Dennis Sullivan of Mount Vernon, New York, sighted about 7 UFOs, which appeared garbage can lid size. The student said the objects disappeared into the clouds after about 10 minutes. So there again, you have all these multiple sightings happening on. I really like that article, though. I mean, talk about getting the dates, the places down, getting the witnesses down. I mean, they first, last name, address, parent's name. That's what you call some actual reporting right there. We see so little of that today. I mean, they've got the sources down. They write the story and they actually bring the receipts. We'll do a couple more of these short articles here. This says deputy gets too close to saucer. Now, this doesn't have a date on it, but the date line is Ravenna, Ohio. We were closer than I ever want to be again, said a deputy sheriff who chased an unidentified flying object from Ohio into Pennsylvania. Hundreds of persons in both states reported seeing the brilliant and shiny object early Sunday morning. That's hundreds. Police Chief Gerald Bookert of Mantis, about 8 miles north of Ravenna, said he took a picture of the object from his front yard, but the Air Force told him not to release it. Imagine that. Why? Bookert said it looked like 2 table saucers put together. Portage County Deputy Sheriff Dale Spower said he and his partner, W.L. Neff, were close to the object in separate cars and chased it 86 miles for an hour and a half from Ravenna to Conway, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. Spower said he clocked it at speeds up to 103 miles per hour from the ground. Spower said it looked like the head of a flashlight, about 40 feet wide and 10 feet high. Bauer said the lines of the object were very distinct. Somebody had control over it. He said it wasn't just floating around. It can maneuver. Now, interesting, the one law enforcement officer says he took a picture of this thing and 2 plates together, but it sounds like a flying saucer. But the other guy describes more of a cigar shaped like a flashlight, he says. Wow. Here's one from Montreal Gazette dated 4/30/66. Space world sought by Soviets. Soviet scientists, undeterred by Western skeptics, believe it is possible that a super civilization exists in space and is trying to make contact with Earth. Because of Moscow's refusal to abandon hope, a new controversy may be started in world astronomy circles. Western experts scoffed a year ago when a young Russian astronomer, Nikola Kardashev, claimed he heard strange signals from space and speculated they might have come from a man-made radio source. A popular science magazine then polled 8 leading Soviet scientists to find out what they think. Friday, Tekla Moldethal, Young Techniques, reported that no one is prepared to rule out the possibility. I agree completely. It is necessary to look for extraterrestrial civilizations, said academic Vladimir Koltnikov, 58, a veteran radio engineer. The Russians say it's time Earthmen started investigating whether there may be sister civilization in space. 3 months ago, a group of Soviet astronomers suggested a worldwide research program. Last April, Kardashev, 34, turned his sensitive radio telescope to CTA 102, a quasi-stellar radio source originally discovered by the Mount Wilson Polar Observatory in Pasadena, California. These scientists said the signals picked up were 1 million times stronger than previous Earthbound radio emissions. There are a number of elements which do not contradict the theory that there is another civilization, he said. Kind of funny how back then Russia seemed to be a lot more interested in outer space civilizations than today. Here's one last one here we'll do, and then I'll wrap this up. I think it's just so much fun, though, to go back in time and look at these old newspaper accounts. This is from the Spokane Daily Chronicle, Saturday, April 2nd, 1966. Since December, it says, area UFO buffs report skies clear of saucers. Recent sightings in other sections of the country have stimulated interest in unidentified flying objects in the Spokane area, but none have been reported seen in this locality since December. There was reported today by Mrs. Jack A. Campbell, Route 3, director of the Spokane unit of Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America. Mrs. Campbell said there is going to be a regional convention of the Flying Saucer Club in Spokane in early summer, and a lecture by a Seattle authority on unidentified flying objects is scheduled by the local unit April 9th. Mrs. Campbell said she was among several Spokane persons who saw such a flying object south of Spokane at Christmas time, but no subsequent sightings have been reported by the UFO buffs since that time in this area. She said the object was seen as a streak of blue which flashed straight across the sky in the vicinity of Browns Mountain, southeast of the city. Mrs. Campbell said it could not have been a falling meteor or similar object, as its movements was horizontal rather than vertical. The Amalgamated Flying Saucer Club of America is a nonprofit organization conducting research and investigation into the subject of flying saucers and interplanetary travel and communication and related subjects. You can see it seems like things back then were mostly done on a lot more of a grassroots level. I mean, you had these small flying saucer clubs. People, like-minded people, were getting together reporting this stuff. And the newspaper reporting, a lot of it does seem more fair than what we've seen. There's a bunch more articles in here. I'll have to take a look at these maybe later on. I know there's been a lot of complaining about the files that were released, that it's not good enough, not enough. But I almost wonder, this could just be narrative control. They could just be throwing some stuff out there to quiet people down. But at the same time, it might be a situation where some of the powers that be are testing the waters a bit. And the easiest way to do that would be to take some of these old newspaper articles, some of these old reports, some of these old files, and begin releasing them. Now, I did see an article where there'd been some stuff released to the Black Vault that had been redacted, and they're saying that they have released an unredacted version of that. There's quite a bit of material here, and I think it's going to take a while to go through it. Just like this one file that I'm looking at, 184 pages. Well, I mean, you could talk about that for a month. We'll keep at it. We'll keep looking up this stuff, and I'll keep bringing it to you. And if anybody has found other interesting reports coming out of this latest document dump, then go ahead and leave comments in the comments section, and we can all look at it together. Hey, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Doesn't cost a dime. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.